Hey there, Gelareh. Okay, let's take a look at your first set of essays for us. Okay, the first one is about entertaining activities versus reading. Here's what you said. It is often said that entertaining activities could aim to develop creative and skillful children more so than reading. Okay, so you had to make those changes there. Even though reading could be a decent practice, I am convinced that fun activities that either involve moving or thinking act as a catalyst to sustain the set of skills that children learn in this manner. Okay, so I disagree with the use of the word decent here, because while we might say this in everyday colloquial speech, in an academic essay it's not really appropriate, so this should be changed. Okay, so you could say something like, even though reading could be an effective practice or could be an effective exercise, I am convinced that fun activities that either involve moving or thinking act as a catalyst to sustain the set of skills the children. This is a little awkward. What does this mean? They act as a catalyst to sustain the set of skills that children learn in this manner. We're not talking about sustaining anything, but we're talking in fact about developing. So I kind of feel like what you're trying to say isn't 100% clear, okay? Let's keep going. Activities that require movement and are enjoyable at the same time, no comma, help children to grow more skilled comparing to reading activities. These activities cause endorphins to be released, which result in a more focused mind. As a result, children would be more likely to learn the skill sets involved in these activities. For instance, children who play football at least once a week usually grow to be cooperative adults, as this skill set is developed in their instincts while playing. All right, it's a little vague. So what is the skill set involved? What are they learning? You haven't really given me much information. So you've skimmed the topic, but I don't feel like you've really kind of bit into it with your teeth, so to speak, okay? Also, don't forget that you need to have a conclusive statement here, one that really summarizes the entire paragraph and links back to your first sentence, okay? All right, moving on. Also, tasks that encourage thinking, this is not correct. So also, tasks that encourage thinking while enjoying one's self, without the commas, are more, not compulsive, that's the wrong word here, are more effective in helping children, we never use the word kids in an IELTS essay, so are more effective in helping children to reach higher levels of creativity. I don't know what you mean by the word nature here. I don't really agree with it. So this would create a strategy in a child's mind which would help them to invent their future life. Take the example of architects. As architecture is the most creative profession, nearly all the architects in the world used to own Lego in their childhood, based on the interview that Lego company has conducted. Therefore, the effects of conducting fun activities that involve thinking could not be neglected in children's growth. Okay, I understand where you're going with this. There are some problems, though, in the grammar, in the lexis used, so we do have to clean it up a little bit. Okay, so here's what I suggest. I'd like to look at this paragraph again from the beginning and maybe make some changes, okay? So, also, tasks that encourage thinking while being entertained are more conducive to helping children reach higher levels of creativity. This skill this skill will create a strategy in a child's mind, or not even a strategy, I don't agree with that word. So this skill will help develop a child's mind, which will assist them in their future life. Take the example of architects. As architecture is one of the most creative professions, nearly all the architects in the world used to own Lego in their childhood, based on an interview that the Lego company has conducted. Therefore, the effects of conducting is not right. The effects of enjoying fun activities that involve thinking should not be neglected in children's '(S) growth. Now, I understand what you're trying to say here, What you really need to do is just stretch out your argument just a little more, okay? So make that link for us. Don't just assume that because you've thrown this idea about Legos that the examiner understands what you mean. You have to make that link really clear for the examiner. So what am I suggesting? So great, architects all used to own Lego. And so what you want to say is that further in this interview, all of the architects mentioned that the Lego play inspired them to choose their career path. Okay, so you need to make the connection clear to the examiner. Don't assume that it's obvious. All right, no matter how obvious it might seem, you really do need to make the connection in your own words. So in conclusion, while reading is a powerful skill that should be developed in early ages, it is not a sufficient practice by itself. An activity that brings enjoyment to a child's, lowercase c, life could act as a better method to you raise skilled offspring. Okay, it's fine. So some nice elements here. There are some things that do need to be improved a little bit. Okay, I think I've gone into considerable detail about what those areas are. So let's take a look at your next essay about schools and whether they should be merely educational or whether they should also entertain. Let's see what you said. While education is a substantial aspect of schooling, the only objective of going to school should not be set on learning. Entertainment should be a key attribute of education in order to raise, you don't grow minds, they're not plants, okay, they're not vegetables, so we raise the minds of children, okay, in order to raise more focused minds and more motivated children. It is sometimes said that children should only focus on education to be more successful. Those who are in favor of soul education believe that childhood is the only time that humans, or when humans, can develop skills and should be focused on sustaining these skills rather than wandering around. This argument is not convincing, though, since it has been illustrated in various research. Okay, fine. I would have preferred various studies. Excuse me. Around the world that human beings, us, are capable of learning at all life stages. Thus, they should not be fearful of losing time of learning. Okay, I see what you did here. You talked about the viewpoint and then you said why you disagreed with it. I don't disagree with this point. I don't disagree with this strategy. There is some logic behind it. I think you probably could have gone into a little more detail. But other than that, it's fine. All right, let's move on. In contrast, some would argue that having engaging activities at school makes, that should have an S here, students motivated and stay. It makes students stay on track. Okay, that's the right expression. Firstly, they refer to the fact that if entertainment is not involved, students get physically exhausted. In turn, their scores would plummet. Or why do they say that? All right, this is the kind of statement that really needs some illustration, needs some extension, because why would they get physically exhausted? That really doesn't make sense. If you had said mentally exhausted, then okay, I understand, but you really should have extended this either way. Secondly, students get mentally broken if they do not experience fun activities at school. A good example of this is China, capital C, which has reportedly been facing a huge production decrease, no D, due to the soul education during the last decade. That's a little awkward. You don't mean due to the soul education. Due to a system of soul education, or due to a system that focuses solely on education. That would be even better during the last decade. Therefore, entertainment, the role of entertainment should not be neglected at schools. Okay, so what you've really done here is you've argued in favor of entertainment by arguing against just pure education. So essentially it means that you've argued your point indirectly. I would prefer it if you could argue this directly. So in other words, instead of telling me what's wrong with a system that focuses purely on education, I would prefer if you talked about what is beneficial and what is good about a system that focuses on entertainment. That is a better way of going about this. It's direct, and then there's no kind of room for uncertainty here. So that's how I would have liked you to frame your answer instead of what you did here. Okay, let's look at your conclusion. To conclude, although some would argue that schoolers, I'm not really a huge fan of that word. Why don't you just say students, okay? Students could be more successful if they only focus on learning while at school. I am strongly convinced that this is not the way to go, and the institution should focus on merging entertainment into, one word, their curriculum. Okay, so what you've done here for your first essays is rather good. You're on the right track. There are some areas that I want you to be aware of, and especially with this essay, it really is just on the area that I think you need to focus on is really being more focused on the actual task and what they're asking you to discuss. I think that's what you need to be a little more careful of. Like I said, I like this paragraph, although I thought you could have said more. And this one, you were arguing what's wrong with the alternative. I wanted you to do something different. I wanted you to argue what is right about focusing on entertainment. All right, that was a more appropriate way to answer this. But all in all, it's a good attempt, and especially for your first essays, you've done a good job. So let's talk about what you need to do at this stage. First, you need to correct these essays based on the suggestions in this video correction, okay? And then return those back to us. The other thing you need to do is create an error correction list where you write down all the errors that were pointed out to you, and next to each error you'll have to write down what the corrected version is. Okay, this is a list that you're going to add to with each essay correction that you get back from us, so send that to us as well. And then the third thing you need to send is a new set of essays, of course. Okay, so taking into account everything that you've been learning so far in the course and in this video correction, you'll write a new set of essays and send that back to us as well. Okay, try to do that within the next 24 hours or so you can really apply everything you've been learning. So let's meet back here with your next set of essays. I'm looking forward to it. Good luck, and I am looking forward to seeing what you write next.